Welcome to the Existence Project podcast, where we share stories from our Keeping It Human workshops and hope to prove the community can be founded on connection, dignity, and belonging for all, where everyone's story is heard. Today, we speak with Mike Woestenburg about his experience with conversion disorder, a rare autoimmune condition that left him traversing social stigma in society and the medical system. Eventually homeless, Mike's recovery shows the importance of discovering and understanding community of peers and individuals alike. Hello.
Hello.
What do you do? What are you doing in the city right now? What's going on with you?
Not much at the moment, but I'm basically just concentrating on being an artist. First Nations Ojibwe art, stylized, so that makes it my own. My mother is Ojibwe herself, and that's how I learned. So when I first came to Victoria and started doing art, for the sake of doing it, that's naturally what I kind of went to.
Cool. And like stylistically, what kind of stuff do you do?
Stylistically, make the dream catchers and, just kind of using found items and just, whatever incorporated into, traditional things. And right now at the moment, what I'm trying to do is my dad comes from a Dutch family. So I'm trying to incorporate, the Ojibwe and the Dutch cultures into a singular thing, which will make it mine.
Cool. Sweet. Do you want to talk a bit about family and how that relates to your life? And
my parents split when I was about 8 years old, and lived with my mother for a lot of years. And honestly, growing up wasn't particularly easy because we found out years later that my mother dealing with PTSD that we didn't know at the time, that situations were difficult. And it was about, I guess it would have been about 15 that moved in with my dad at that point, and right up until about, about 21 that he kind of met a woman and got married and just kind of moved on, kind of thing.
So we met through the Coalition to End Homelessness, the Speakers Bureau.
Yes.
And on that, you're speaking a bit to your experience of homelessness in the community, as well as to a disability that you're carrying. And so
yes.
I'm wondering if you're able to just maybe expand on, what is your experience around homelessness, if you feel comfortable, how you ended up there, and how does that relate to the disability that you have right now?
My homeless situation just happened because, there was multiple situations happening at the same time. So you find yourself in this spiral, this downward spiral of particular situations that compound one on top of another. First, dealing with the disability that, I really didn't particularly have an understanding with. On top of that, just kind of all sorts of medication issues, to contend with the disability. And on top of that, you're self-medicating and, you turn out to be this really, really not good person. And, you start to lose control without realizing it. So things happened, and I actually lost my home living in Surrey. And when I actually lost my home, I think I spent my last loonie at an email cafe, and there was an email from my stepsister saying, come over to San Antonio, put you up and help you out, kind of thing. So I did. And that's how I initially came to Victoria. And I lived with her for about a month, right? I'm looking for places, and it's just not happening. And I ended up getting this application from BC Housing, and running all over town trying to get this filled out, to find emergency housing, and it just wasn't happening. So that's when I decided to put myself into the Broadway Landing because they have CSWs, right? So
can you say what a CSW is?
Yeah, sorry. The CSW is the client service worker. And you get teamed up with a person, and they help you out with all sorts of things, everything from, simply just trying to, reestablish your ID to, anything from, housing to, finding, recovery for addictions, mental health, everything that you need personally, this person will help you out and try and find it. So when I had this application, this person helped me, filled it out, and, decided, okay, well, back in the past living in Surrey, when I ended up having to move, it was just easy enough to find a place. And within the next month from the time you put in your notice, that you're able to find a place. So I was sitting there thinking, okay, well, I got a month to sit here, then, I can do that. Then maybe I'll get a place. Didn't happen. I think I was there for about 2 or 3 months. Then I ended up getting an interview with a lady from BC Housing. And I found out that I was denied because considering the disability that I deal with, I was deemed capable. So I found myself in a situation that, well, what do I do now? And that's how I fell into the whole shelter situation. I was bouncing between the Rock Bay Landing and the Sally Ann, just trying to find a place and find a place and find a place. And it just wasn't happening at all. So, yeah.
And can you expand a little bit on like what was going on with you medically and like how did that manifest in your body?
It's really, really stressful because, what I deal with is called the conversion disorder, functional neurological disorder. And essentially how I explain it through the Speakers Bureau with the Coalition in Homelessness is you've got your conscious and your subconscious, and it's in a conflict. And that conflict, what happens, it actually manifests physical symptoms, but there isn't a medical reason why. If you look at my medical history from the time this started, all my tests are clear. They're fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me. But this happens, and it's actually stress-based. So you find yourself in a situation, and it's very, very tense, very, very stressful. So I shake, and my symptoms look similar to Parkinson's and MS. I'll start to move in this now, whatever. So the more stress that's tacked on, or that I carry on myself, the more that'll shake. And it makes it really, really difficult because, for one, you're trying to look for a place. You got to meet all your doctor's appointments. You got to get your medication and, whatever you got going on in your life. And you walk around town doing it. I think I went through 3 pairs of shoes in 6 months walking around. So you tap on a disability like what I contend with, and you move the way I do at times, it's just a significant effort. It's a huge effort. And that's the way it worked.
So logistically, it sounds like it was really challenging to navigate the system.
It was. And on top of that, you can talk on fatigue, trying to find your meals, when I was living out Rock Bay, you can get your meals, at the Salvation Army, you can get your meals, this and that, whatever. And the way they actually make them, the way they build them, is very starchy, carby based, right? So they want you full, and they want you to gain weight, I'm assuming. But, I found out I had a food intolerance because of the disorder, and, that made me very, very tired, very, very fatigued. So, in the morning you get up and you get bounced out of your room because it's kind of, it gets cleaned, and you're just physically exhausted. You really can't do anything. But, there's things you got to do. You set up a place to view where you got an appointment, and this and that, whatever. It's got to get done. It's got to get done, or else, it simply won't. So you got to get up and do it. You got to knuckle down. You got to suck it up, and it sucks.
And did you feel like there was support for people like you in that situation, or was it just kind of fend for yourself?
No, there was support. There actually, I actually grew a lot of support because, dealing with this, I explained to a lot of people what I was dealing with, and I spent a lot of time, at the same time doing a lot of research about what I'm dealing with, and with that understanding, I was able to share, okay, well, I find myself in this situation, or I go into this situation, or I deal with this kind of people, or this particular person, I'm going to end up like this, and this is the way it's going to happen. And a lot of people I found that were actually really supportive, not only because of myself personally, but of the brain disorder itself, because a lot of people never heard of it. Actually, nobody heard of it. got really, really good at doing that. And people were like, oh, I never look it up and this and whatever kind of thing. And yeah, just kind of would have, I found out that would be a bit of a cushion. And it was not only with the people that I've met, like the client service workers or people behind the front desk. It was also a lot of people that I've met out in the street and within the shelter system. A lot of people were really supportive of me. They were like, "Oh, hey, you know what? You're a decent enough fellow. It's just, I can help you out. If you need a hand, whatever." Like the best people that I've actually met was through that.
Can you speak a bit to that about the community that you found in the homeless population? Because I feel like the assumption is I think a lot of people don't really know what that operates like, and if it's like, is there a lot of support there, and how do people support each other?
There is a lot of support there, and I still have a lot of support there. I've lived in my place for about over 5.5 years now, but there's a lot of people that I've known that live in my building and moved on to other buildings, but there's a lot of people that I know still out in the street, and there is that support. Somebody that edge you out and say, you have a toonie for a coffee. And hey, here you go. You can have my toonie, and vice versa. I hit up people, and I really haven't had any conflict, thankfully, out there. But what a lot of people don't realize is the amount of tradespeople out there that do want to work. There's numerous artists that are out there. There's academics that are out there. There's all sorts of really, really intelligent and capable people that just don't have a place.
And that's an interesting point, because I think another thing that people think about a lot when they look at the street population is, they're dealing with drug addiction, and they're there for one reason or another. But one thing that might not first come to people's mind is they're there because they have a disability, and the disability isn't supported by the government or the wider community, and so they've landed out of there by circumstances completely out of their control. And
yeah, exactly.
Did you see that regularly? Did you meet other folks with disabilities that had kind of landed in there?
Yeah, loads of people out there. Like great majority of people out there do have a disability.
And I feel like with the conversion disorder is different with the nervous system, and how it's a very unique disease, right? It's very rare.
Yes, it's very rare. I found out just recently that I'm 1 in 20,000 people approximately across the country, this country in Canada.
And can you speak a bit to how you ended up getting out of that situation as far as navigating homelessness? Like what allowed you to get over that?
It was sheer fluke. I went to, she's not my friend, but my client service worker at the time. I ended up speaking with her one day that I told her that my health was actually that bad. I shared with her that, if I don't get out of this situation, there's going to be a point in which I'm not going to be able to do much for myself at all. So I ended up finding a place online through Craigslist, and I applied for it, and it was just out of my price range. So I spoke to her and told her about it, and she goes, okay, well, people, Pacifica has actually placed people in this building hall called Pacifica, and see what we can do. Come back and meet me up tomorrow. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I met her the next day, and she goes, well, I didn't call Pacifica. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was about to get really, really upset. She goes, no, I called the manager of the building, itself. And yeah, you got a viewing. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I went in there and got a viewing, and they had a place available that I was able to take right away. And it was just a matter of, particulars after that kind of thing. And I was set up for the middle of a month, and it was going to be a month and a half before I was able to move in. So I got all my money squared up with the ministry and this and that, whatever kind of thing. And
can you speak a bit to invisible illness? And because for myself, for example, I have had multiple concussions, and so that manifests in post-concussion syndrome, which can be hard to relate to people. And sounds like your illness didn't necessarily present outright physically if someone were to meet you. Can you describe, maybe, did that have any effect on relating to people, and was that difficult in some ways? Or?
Yeah, it does, because it's just simply like other people can't relate. It's that situation that, if you don't go through through it yourself, then you're not going to understand, and that's a big hump. I've learned to be a lot more vocal about what I'm going through. A lot more vocal, when I feel bad or it looks like I'm having a difficult situation. That start using keywords as to how I'm feeling. I'll say, like say for example, doing the speakers bureau. When I walk in there, I'll start to shimmy and shake and all that kind of fun stuff. And I'll share with people that they look at me and they're like, "Are you okay? Are you fine?" Right? I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. This will happen. This will happen." I understand that. It's just because for one, I am nervous. Two, I am excited. And three, considering the crowd, that it is overwhelming. Mm. So you start to develop keywords as to what you're going through in a pinch quickly. Mm-hmm. And it's helpful, but I don't have Parkinson's. I don't have MS. Mm. I can relate a lot with the people, with the symptoms that they experience. Mm. But with MS and Parkinson's and conversion disorder are three different things. Mm. And that's the hump.
Can you speak, I remember you mentioned this last time, do you mind speaking to that moment when you've met someone else with conversion disorder?
Oh my gosh, I cried. I bawled. I'm holding onto her hand and I'm sitting there and I'm shaking. I'm like, really, really? She goes, yeah, really.
What was the context?
Oh, it was a woman in Pacific Rim College. I was there, to go through, trying to find something that'll help with, all the symptoms and this and that, whatever, because, the medications weren't kind of getting close off medications for a lot of years. I voluntarily did that myself, but then, just trying to explore other aspects of what is out there that'll, help my situation, right? So when I was there for about 2 years, in and out, in and out, in and out kind of thing. And there was this woman that was a part of the college. And I guess one day they decided to surprise me because, she was involved. You do it in a class situation. You go in there and there's a class situation and you ask questions and this and that, whatever. So it's an actual school setting that you're going into. And one of the women actually deals with conversion disorder. And I guess it was a surprise one day that they ended up saying, well, there's one person in here that deals with the same thing. Woman, Regan. And, next thing you know, I'm just, it was so over. I cried, I'm holding onto her hand because I needed that physical touch. I needed to hold her hands and, just to have, someone tangible that actually deals with the same thing that I deal with. Because at that point, I've shared, and this was almost a few years ago, like about 4 years ago now. So it would have been about 10, 11 years I was dealing with this at the time, that I've always mentioned that I've never, ever, up until that point, met anyone dealing with the same thing that I do.
So you felt like, you just feel like you'd like emerged from like isolation almost in a way?
Yeah. It really cemented the fact that I am not alone. Mm. And it also cemented the fact for me personally that, what I deal with is the real deal. Mm. Because if you do research in this now, whatever, because it was actually Sigmund Freud that actually coined the phrase conversion disorder. Mm. And prior to that, if you look back in history, it's referred to as hysteria, because it's, related with the brain and the nervous system. And that's essentially what it is in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. So to have this one other person in front of me, that I'm holding her hand and I'm crying and I'm looking at her, it was, okay, what I deal with is a real thing.
How do you feel like your perspective shifted from like the first time you started experiencing symptoms to where you're at now, as far as your outlook on life?
A lot better. I'm a lot more calm because I have to be. I am in control of my home personally. of my environment and people I associate with. But, when you walk out that front door, you run that risk. It's true because, stress is a wacky and wonderful thing that it does so much to yourself physically that you don't even realize that it's going on. So if you have some free time and you want to go walk in a park, go walk in a park. Happenstance might change things significantly in which, the rest of my day is done. So I really like to say you can pick and choose your battles, but, I personally, I can't.
So lesson maybe in moment by moment and accepting and
Yeah, it's you hear that and you see that all the time. It's all about the simple things. As cheesy as it sounds, it's true. It's true.
So I've heard a lot through my interactions with people that are on the street, how important and how big of a changing point getting PWD or person with disabilities can be as far as finding accessible housing. And I've also heard that that's a very challenging process.
It can be initially for me. Again, I got lucky because when I actually had to apply for PWD, it was pretty easy because it was simply when I walked in there and applied for it. The first few years when I started exhibiting symptoms, for about 5-6 years, I was moving all the time. So when I walked in there and had to apply, just to get the benefits initially, it was easy because they looked at me and they knew right away that okay, well, something's up. And with housing, I've never really had any situations. Well, no, I lied because one of the biggest reasons why I became homeless was because of actually dealing with a PWD office in North Surrey. I actually had a place arranged and up in Cortez Island. And that's where I was going to move to. I ended up meeting this woman and her family who had this property that was apparently her grandfather's and was passed down. And they just wanted somebody to be in there. It was just essentially a log cabin with a wood stove. Your shitter was 20 feet away kind of thing. And it was 2 acres on the waterfront. And the rent was really, really cheap. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to take that opportunity. I met with her. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do this. But the big sticking point that I ended up having was living expenses. Because I was in contact with that office. If I didn't walk in there, I was on the phone on a daily basis, leading up to the time I actually had to move. So I ended up getting evicted and put in my notice and having to move to Cortez Island all on the same day. So when it came down to moving expenses, when I went to go pick it up, I got nothing. So I ended up with my father, saying, well, I gotta go. You guys know this was going on. Apparently all the information I had was supposed to go to the supervisor for, confirmation that this was going to happen, but it never did. The communication through the office was just non-existent. If not once, well, only once I met the same person twice. I never spoke to the same person twice any other time and never saw anyone in the office the same person twice any other time. And all that information just got passed. I never knew that I wasn't allowed to move up to Cortez Island. I didn't know that I was going to get the moving expenses to move up to Cortez Island. When I asked for a little bit of extra, I was supposed to get to the supervisor, for confirmation that, maybe this could happen. That never happened. So I went in there with my dad, and we actually got the supervisor of that office from her conversation from the minister here in Victoria just to deal with this situation. And that's essentially the biggest reason why I became homeless, because of dealing with the ministry here in BC.
What are some things in the community that you think are not working very well and that need to be improved as far as supporting people that were in your situation?
A lot. Oh my gosh. Affordable housing for one. That's just not happening too quickly enough. and that's just out of my scope of actually doing anything about it because, it's not only it's municipal, it's provincial and it's federal. Accessibility, to health, and not just going to your doctor, to find things out. A person like myself, if I need to see a chiropractor, there's a cost. I know MSP through the ministry being on my PWD will pay $25 a month throughout the year to have those visits, but that's just not enough.
Totally. Make more accessible healthcare available to people.
That whole basic income situation that, Doogie Ford kind of nixed in Ontario, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a big mistake. But, apparently British Columbia, was trying to bring that in as a pilot program next year in 2020. And to have that.
A resource.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For sure.
It's something like that. Because, they always talk about, a lot of people will talk about, you hear it around through the city, it's just, that one particular word, dignity, to people less fortunate to have that dignity, and, dignity is just, a word that's too much bounced around, with a lot of organizations.
Could you expand on that a little bit? Like, what does treating people with dignity mean in this context?
It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's just not being a prick because, I'm a human being myself too. And, you do something for me and you go up there on a podium and speak with a microphone and share with a whole bunch of people as to what you've done for myself, and you use that word dignity. How do you?
Right. That's what you. And that's what you mean by people bouncing the word around.
Yeah.
What would it mean for someone to actually practice dignity?
Actually practice dignity. As there's a friend of mine down the hall every now and again. She's got some stuff, extra that she's not going to use or eat and this, that, whatever. She'll knock on my door and she goes, here you go, and I'll do vice versa. And she's in the same situation I am, dealing with the disability and being on, disability through the province. But, we're sharing what we can, when we come across it. And, that's us treating each other with dignity. Simply. I care for her, I respect for her, and yeah, it's, simple things like that, and you can build upon it. You don't need to stand up on a podium and showboat and just use that word because you did a very, very minor thing for me once. Don't do that because that is simply not dignified.
Totally. I want to expand on that too. No, it's an interesting point, man. It's like it sounds like dignity is like a bit more about like actually caring about the human and listening to their needs and not just giving them like a token gesture and then like claiming like you have some kind of connection.
It's you and I have a connection now. We're completely different people, but what we're doing right here, this is dignified because I have a voice and you're giving me that opportunity, which I do appreciate. That's essentially dignity, right here. Build upon that. There's a lot of us that do have a voice. There's a lot of us out there like yourself that are doing this for voices.
The thing that also that strikes me when we give people a voice, including ourselves, that are really able to speak to some truth in their life, is that there's a healing that happens that goes beyond the self. Like we're not alone in our experiences. You know what I mean?
No, we're not. And I've also shared through the Speakers Bureau that dealing with the disability that I deal with, when I'm in a situation like this in which I'm able to actually speak about it, makes it real for me because, you know, I know now I'm not the only person going through this, right? But when I share it and I speak about it, you know, it validates that, yes, you know, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is the person I've become dealing with this. You know, it's validation because, yeah, exactly, yes, I do have that voice.
Cool. Do you want to, if people want to get in touch or they want to learn more about your art, do you have any way for them to check that out?
Yeah, I got a cheesy webpage. It's my name, Mike Woestenburg, and it's a website called Aboriginal.
Okay. Aboriginal.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for being here today.
Oh, thank you.
You've been listening to the Existence Project podcast. If you want to hear more, check out our website, theexistenceproject.ca, or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Existence Project.